He's the managing partner at Barasch McGarry, which is a law firm you've seen. I'm sure their ads on TV. They've represented thousands of 9/11 victims and their families. Michael's office is located just a few blocks from Ground Zero. He's also a two-time 9/11 cancer survivor himself. As we approach 25 years since the 9/11 attacks, Congress has taken action to address a $3 billion funding shortfall in the World Trade Center health program. But questions remain about those who are still getting sick. Let's welcome Michael Barasch. Good morning, Michael.
And thanks for having me back.
It's good to have you back. Thank you again. And Congress recently passed a bill to address this funding shortfall. So, why was that so critical?
Well, the program was in danger of not being able to accept new patients had this funding not been granted. This fulfills a pledge by Congress to, quote, never forget the victims of 9/11, which sadly all too many legislators were forgetting. So now that we have the full funding, that's wonderful. However, if they don't lift the hiring freeze at the Department of Health, it doesn't do us much good to have all this funding if they're not willing to spend the money to rehire all the people who've been let go, including some wonderful doctors and nurses at the World Trade Center Health Program. And also, the funding was for to continue grants to study illnesses that may be linked. They were very close to coming up with some suggestions to add some heart diseases, some autoimmune illnesses. Ken, did you know that in 2012, no cancers had been linked to the World Trade Center toxins? But now, because of studies, we now have linked 69 cancers and many respiratory illnesses. Well, I know in my heart of hearts that there are many autoimmune illnesses and some heart diseases that should be added, but they have to fund these grants, continue these studies. They have to rehire the doctors and nurses so there isn't a 6-month wait for new patients to be admitted. Because as I'm sure your listeners can appreciate, 6 months makes the difference between a diagnosis of cancer in stage 1 versus stage 4. So it's critical that
100%.
we not forget the victims.
And what's infuriating about this is we have a president who is from New York. You have a Senate minority leader who is from New York. And we have so many members of Congress from New York who lived here that day. You would think that they would be acting a little more proactively, if you will, in this. What is, I guess, upsetting is so many younger members of Congress don't get it. They weren't from New York. They don't understand that. I mean, all you have to do is look at as the buildings came down and look at the plumes of toxins that went out all over lower Manhattan, New Jersey, and Queens and Brooklyn, just coated, and even to some extent the Bronx. It just coated the region, and it was just all with toxins. We had asbestos in those buildings, chemicals like oil and things like that, and this all got breathed in for months and months and months by people. There's still residue around on the streets today, I'm sure.
That's such a great point you're making. And I want to reiterate, and that was one of our frustrations in all these. I made over 14 trips to Washington with the firefighter and the police unions, with the Feel Good Foundation. I was bringing a lot of people with me to talk to these legislators and their staff. And so many of the staffers now weren't even born on 9/11. So it's not, you can't blame them for really not understanding what's going on here. They'll say, that's still continuing. My firm represents people in all 50 states. This is not just a New York issue at this point. First responders came from all 50 states to help out in the rescue and recovery operation. And so many firefighters and cops from New York and New Jersey have now retired to Florida, North Carolina, South Carolina, all over the country. I'm actually in Naples, Florida last night. I spoke at an FDNY retiree event. Today I'm speaking at an NYPD retiree event, but they're all over Florida. I mean, I'm so privileged to be able to do outreach down here. And that's really what helped us get this funding, is that we had the people who live in all 50 states reach out to their legislators to explain to them, hey, this isn't a New York issue. I live in North Carolina. I live in Florida. I'm one of your constituents. I demand that you vote for the full funding of the health program. And they did. It was really an exciting grassroots effort to get this bill passed. So I'm delighted, but now let's see the government rehire the people that were fired, because that's what we really need to make this an efficient program. Do you know that over 49,000 people, Ken, have now been certified with a 9/11 cancer? Over 9,000 people have died of a 9/11 illness. That's 3 times as many people that we lost on 9/11. Let's just face it, 9/11 didn't end on 9/11, but sadly, a lot of people, especially legislators outside of New York, seem to have forgotten that.
Yeah, sadly. And just to reinforce what you're saying, you're in Naples. I'm in Fort Lauderdale right now, and I go back and forth between here and New Jersey. And one of my neighbors in the building that I'm in right now was a police officer who responded on 9/11 and is registered on the list. So
Good.
it does go on and on. It's sort of a diaspora, right, of people who came from Lower Manhattan, whether they were first responders or just people living in Lower Manhattan. If they were
Yeah.
impacted by breathing that dust, they better get on the list. So let's talk about that, how important it is to be on the list before anything happens. So even if you think, I'm fine, get on the list. Please talk about that.
All right. Well, it's been 25 years since 9/11. It's hard to believe. A quarter of a century will soon be upon us. And the most difficult thing for my firm, and I represent now over 45,000 people, it's not just first responders, Ken. It's 300,000 downtown office workers who believed the EPA when they assured us that the air was safe to breathe. They wanted to reopen Wall Street, which they did the very following week. So those people are, many of them have retired. The 50,000 students and teachers, you use the word diaspora. That's a great word to describe what happens to kids who graduate from grade school and high school, go to colleges all over the country, and then stay elsewhere. They need to be able to prove sometime, God forbid they ever get cancer, that they were living, working, or going to school in Lower Manhattan. And every year that goes by, it gets harder and harder to get that proof. So I urge everyone, as you suggested, even if they're healthy, register now with the World Trade Center Health Program and the Victim Compensation Fund. Secure your proof that you were living, working, going to school, or even responding or volunteering. The volunteers are all eligible. Anyone who is exposed to those toxins, and at the Pentagon as well, they're entitled to the benefits of the World Trade Center Health Program. And if they ever get cancer, in most cases, they're entitled to $250,000. If they ever die of their cancer, any time in their lifetime, and then for the next 64 years, their family is entitled to financial security that will allow them to keep their home, to send their kids to college. But you need to get that proof secured now. Don't leave it to your spouse or your family to try to find witnesses. Listen, with my database, we're able to help so many people find witnesses. But let me tell you, it's so much easier if I have the help of a living and healthy client who can say, oh, I'll call this guy or that woman because they were with me. And then we get an affidavit from that person. We warehouse it. You don't have to apply. You're not going to get any money unless you get sick. God forbid you ever do get sick. But the worst thing, the most heartbreaking thing is to have a really sick person not be able to come up with witnesses, or their company that they worked for is now out of business and there's nobody to write an employment verification letter. So protect yourselves, protect your families, get that proof of presence now. And also, if I can nag a little bit, go for a full body skin exam, because skin cancer is the most common cancer in the 9/11 community. They found my skin cancer under my right thumb. My office, as you said at the beginning, was just 2 blocks from ground zero. It was under my nail. I didn't see anything, but fortunately, the dermatologist who I visited, he had one of those lenses. He said, I don't like the color, Michael, under your right thumb nail. And I said, really? He took it.
That's a,
He took a little sample. It turned out to be squamous cell skin cancer, but I got it early. It didn't metastasize. It didn't become a melanoma. So
right.
everybody, be your own advocate. Get your proof of presence now. Go get your skin checked. For women, go for your annual mammograms. For guys, don't ignore your prostate. Go for an annual exam. you don't have to die from cancer if it's caught early.
Amen to that. Michael Barasch, managing partner at Barasch and McGarry, a law firm that's represented literally thousands upon thousands of 9/11 victims and their families. Thank you for coming on this morning, as always.
Ken, as always, thank you.